Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Law of Relevancy podcast. I'm your host, Cord Zoen, and today we're joined by Ari Galper. He is the world's #1 authority on trust based selling, which is something that is incredibly important these days because building trust at scale is not easy to do. Ari, thank you for joining us on the Law of Relevancy.
Thank you so much, Corey. Appreciate it having me here.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hear you're coming in from Sydney, Australia.
I am down there from there, yes. You probably caught the accent. I'm from California originally. I grew up there, but met my wife on a dating site 20 years ago, and here I am. So everything is virtual at this point.
That's fantastic. That must have been one of the first dating sites.
This was actually no swiping, just like picture and text. And so that's where it all started.
Well, that doesn't sound very fair because if you're a sales expert on a dating website, it seems like you might have an unfair advantage.
That's probably true. I did use some of my trust-based approaches to the process. That is true, yes.
But at the end, it sounds like she won because she recruited you all the way to the other end of the earth.
She sure did. Imported me inside here. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, again, this is a topic that I'm very passionate about. I was, obviously sharing before the show. I actually do a lot of the sales at the organization that I'm at, and I have done sales at other organizations previously. And I famously score very low on any sales assessments. But in my mind, what I think is happening is because like I really enjoy relationship, like very long term based selling. Like I'm really interested in what people are doing and what they're up to, what their goals are, and things like that. And so I'm not pushy when it comes to selling. All I'm trying to do is solve problems. But I'm like the worst salesperson you've ever met on a sales assessment. How does that compute, or how does that relate to your subject matter?
Well, I think it was a wrong assessment.
Maybe.
Because funny things, I just did a talk at UCLA at their business school for their CEO alumni, and I told the whole audience, never attend a sales training course ever again after today, and throw away all your sales books because selling in itself is the problem. People
Yeah.
don't want to be sold. They don't want to pick up any sales behaviors from anybody else. They don't want to feel like they're being chased. So everything you did not do fits exactly where people should be now in this economy, which we'll get into today.
Well, the challenge, it seems like, especially in an organization that's driven by a sales quota, is how do you make your quota and not, it's like there's like this dichotomy of where there's like pressure to meet a quota, but there's also like, and there's urgency around making a sale today. But in order to do that in a very relationship or appropriate timeline, like those things are at odds, it seems like.
Well, you can still have your goals each month and you can still want to grow your company. But you can't send pressure between you, the other person over the phone or via Zoom, however you sell. And that's the key today is how to remove the pressure from the process so nobody feels sold or pursued. It's this is very contrarian, okay? Most people grew up in the environment of a kind of construct of selling is about chasing the numbers game, pursuing. That's what selling is. I'm here to say the complete opposite. Selling is dysfunctional as it is right now. It's a dysfunctional relationship because one party is doing things to the other party that's causing mistrust. So
Yeah.
our whole approach of trust-based selling is to untangle that.
Well, that's really interesting. I can't wait to get into the meat of it, as you would say. It seems like I can't watch a YouTube video with seeing some kind of a high pressure, like somebody selling some coaching program, and they might be 22 years old, and it's like they're going to teach me about how to grow my business or achieve some things for some, either it's a coaching program or a mentoring program or some sales system or something like that. And I got to say, I mean, it is extremely off-putting to me. I automatically put up all my BS filters.
I feel the same way. Even look at LinkedIn. Every day I'll log in and I see messages from people trying to pitch me a meeting. Um, even even agencies are looking for help with selling, and they're supposed to be providing leads for clients they can't get themselves. I mean, it's really ironic. It's sort of a smoke and mirrors out there, and that's why our whole approach of getting to the truth cuts through all that noise.
Well, let's talk about your background a little bit. So, I'd like to hear how this construct came about. Tell us a little bit about your history with sales and how you got to the place where you're at right now.
Sure. So I had a pivotal moment that switched my mindset a couple decades ago, believe it or not. I was a sales manager in a software company, and I was managing 18 people underneath me. We launched the first online website data collection tools. Now it's called Google Analytics. I'm sure you probably know what that is. But we were bought out by Google over the years, and that was this is early days, you know. And so I remember getting a phone call from our website, a big opportunity. Call us, and I got the phone call, and this guy's with a huge company and he wants to do a live demo to see our product because they want to look at tracking their websites. And it was such a big opportunity, of course, that if I close this one sale, it would double the revenue of the business in one transaction. That's how big it was. And so they finally came, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the conference room, and I was with my CEO in the room. We closed the door behind me. On the tables, one of those old school Star Trek speaker phones, you know, with the 3 legs on it, those corporate phones.
Love
And I
those
dialed.
polycoms.
That's it.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
name, yeah. And I hit the speaker phone, and the dial tone came up, and I dialed the phone number, and my guy picks it up. He's like, "Hey, Ari." He's like, "Hey, how's it going? Good." And he says to me, "Let me share with you, or let us introduce who's with us on the line today." I said, "Great." The next thing I hear is, "My name is Mike. I'm CEO." I was like, "Ooh, this is good, CEO." "My name is Julie. I'm head of global marketing." Perfect. "My name is Chris. I'm head of global IT." I mean, everybody on this call was a decision maker. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen today because we're all here. So I introduced myself, explained what we do with our data collection tools. We chose one of their websites in advance to do a live demo. I had them all log in to this system, old school kind of webinar system. They all dialed in, and I started showing them live on their site all the data collection that we could do for them in real time. It was the first time they ever saw this. I started hearing this noise on the phone call, like, wow, this is great. This is amazing. They started asking me all kinds of questions. How does it work? How do we install it? How do we implement it? I mean, there was so much chemistry on this phone call. It was like a love fest on the phone. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm nervous that there's a twist.
They had the questions, I had the answers.
Yeah.
I was not pushy or salesy, I was just competent. I was
Yeah.
friendly. I was building relationships. I was doing everything I was taught to do by the gurus and the books on my shelf at home at the time. And so anyways, an hour goes by, they are in hog heaven, they love it. The call comes to a close, and my contact says to me, "Ari, this is fantastic. We love this. Is a no-brainer for us. Look, give us a call a couple weeks. Follow up with us, and we'll move this thing forward." I was like, "Oh, thank you,
You
God."
got
It
all
was
the
like the
signals. You got
it was
all the
like the
signals.
exactly. I
You're
got the high
spending the
five.
money. You're spending the commission money in your mind. Yeah.
I got the high five from my boss in the corner of the room, you know. The call comes to an end, and I take my hand to reach over for the speakerphone, hit the off button. In my complete accident, now after the divine intervention, I hit the mute button instead of the off button. They were right next to each other. I clicked the wrong button, and a small click happened, and they thought I hung up the phone. In that split second, a voice inside of me says, "Ari, go to the dark side. You're flying the wall. Go where no one's ever gone before in the world of selling." So I pulled my thumb back. They thought I hung up the phone, and they started talking amongst themselves, thinking I had left the call. So what might you guess I would have heard in that call, given the hour we just had? That was amazing. What would you expect to have heard?
I mean, I would expect them to be talking about timelines, about budgets, about, you know, anything along those lines, or like maybe if like I'm being paranoid, I might think, well, if this is a big tech company, they might be going, how could we make this ourselves?
Well,
I'm not sure.
well,
Yeah.
I was expecting similar things to you, positive things. I mean, why wouldn't you? But let me share with you what they said verbatim, word for word. That's why we're here today. Here's what they said. They said, "We're not going to go with him. Keep using him for more information, and make sure we shop someplace else cheaper." Knife and heart twist. I was in a state of shock. I was like, what? After all that? I snapped out of it, hit the off button, looked at the wall, and I said to myself, what did I do wrong? I was professional. I was competent. I was relationship oriented. I did everything I was taught to do, but they still felt comfortable not telling me the truth. I said to myself, this is all wrong. There's a game going on here, and this game is dysfunctional, where both parties are uncomfortable telling each other the truth. That's where I came up with my whole philosophy, my whole mindset shift called trust-based selling, where the goal is not to focus anymore on the end goal of the sale, but to focus only on building trust with people to such a deep extent where they feel comfortable enough telling you the truth. Now that trajectory, that goal requires a whole different way of thinking and a whole different pattern of languaging and skill set to get to that objective. And that was the whole premise behind my philosophy over the last 2 decades.
Well, tell me more. So what
Okay.
happened next?
Well, obviously, they didn't do anything. They disappeared on me and they ghosted me. And that's what the biggest issue is that people out there who are still selling are being ghosted all the time. And they expect that to be normal. But what they don't realize, they're the ones triggering the ghosting. They're playing the numbers game. They're chasing people. Here's the thing, we are now in what I call the trust recession. Okay? We are now in a commoditized economy where you're being shopped against somebody else. Your potential client or lead can't discern how you're different over anyone else from the outside in. All they see is a web presence, a LinkedIn profile, and a website. How are they supposed to know? They are in a shopping mode. That never used to happen. Pre-COVID, they weren't in shopping mode. Pre-COVID, you could do the normal things like become their friend, relationship building, educate them, and by default, they work with you. I miss those days. Those are wonderful days.
Yeah. I had lunch today with a restaurateur. Actually, a couple of them. I was introducing them to one another. I had no motive, like other. I mean, I knew I was doing both of them a favor, but I had no profit motive. I'm not doing business with either one. There just happened to be two friends of mine that should know each other. And one of the guys was talking about how he made a shift from fast casual dining to full experiential dining, much more elevated experience. And it came up in conversation that it is those like at some place he was previous, the strategy people thought that the experience of sitting down and having long meals with people was over, like it was passé. And it was just interesting because in that moment we were literally building relationships. We were literally building trust over an hour and a half long lunch. And it's clearly not over. There's clearly a lot to do with human behavior around the process of building trust and building relationships. And like today's example, like is very altruistic to me. I mean, I think potentially like as a mutual thank you, either one of those parties might, hey, Cords, what do you do? Like maybe there's a way we could use you for something, but there were no guarantees or whatever. I was just trying to help people. What are some techniques? I mean, you mentioned a couple of very kind of cerebral words during your explanation about the process of building trust. What are some things we can do as business people to like? Is there a checklist or something? I'm sure it's in the books, and we should get the books. We should all get the books. But what are some like quick? What's our cheat sheet for doing these kinds of things that you're recommending?
Well, the quickest thing to see the shift in your mindset is to change your languaging from sales languaging to trust-based languaging. Okay, so we've developed a whole set of phraseology that replaces sales languaging altogether. For instance, rather than saying to somebody, would you be interested in this? You'd say, would you be open to this?
Yeah,
Open doesn't force them into a yes or a no. It creates a new space where they can tell by the way you're saying things, they can feel comfortable with you. And also, for instance, rather than calling somebody and saying, hi, I'm calling to follow up with you, or emailing someone to say, I'm calling to follow up with you. By the way, never ever use that word ever again as of today. Delete it from your memory. Because the word follow up implies moving somebody forward with pressure on them. Instead, what you say is this: I'm giving you a call to see if you have any feedback on our previous conversation, any feedback on our last meeting, any feedback on a proposal. Feedback's going backwards away from the sale not towards it. So if you can replace the languaging you're using in your process itself, you get an immediate uptick on people going, this person's different. They don't sound like they're selling.
Yeah. If I were to receive a call, or if I were to call someone and ask them for feedback, I'm literally asking for their opinion, asking for input and things like that. I'm not asking to, like, show me that ink on that paper. It's like I'm really literally just asking for their opinion. I I heard a saying a long time ago that it seems to ring true a lot and is relevant in this case, where the person said, "Hey, if you ask for money, you're going to get advice. If you ask for advice, they'll give you money."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe asking for feedback is a more appropriate way to move things forward.
Feedback elicits the truth. Follow
Yeah,
up does not.
that's a good point.
And that's the flip, is that we don't recognize or realize that we ourselves are triggering the wall of pressure to go up in the back of their mind, and they don't feel comfortable telling us the truth. So a lot of it starts with the person selling to change their own thinking, to realize everything they learned about selling is wrong.
Yeah,
They got to stop doing those behaviors that associate them with a stereotype. Another classic one is doing free consulting and overeducating prospects. Because we feel like when we meet someone for the first time, say in a Zoom meeting or whatever, a consultation, we feel it's our job to educate them, to prove to them we can do the job, to flex, show them our brilliance, and somehow that will blow them away with us and have them sign up. But it turns out that delivering education to people has been also commoditized. Also, so is value delivery. Delivering value up front, pre-sale, is a mistake. That's not trust building.
yeah.
Because here's what I figured out. They don't really care about how you solve their problem at first. What they care about is, are you the one to solve it or not? Can they trust
Well, that's also that's a really good point, and also, like, I definitely have been in a situation where I've overeducated people early on. Like, I may just meet them. I've already dealt with this same exact problem with 20 other people, so I know exactly what the answer is. And if I jump right to it, then number one, I could be wrong. There's a chance I'm wrong, in which case I'm going to literally push them away. Or it might be something where I've just made it seem too easy. Like, it may have taken years to know that answer, years of experience and trial and error, and hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment to know what the answer is. But by giving them some of that information too early, I've devalued it. And I've also ruined any expectation of a nice mutual respect going forward. So it seems like, I mean, this is just I'm not like, you're the expert here, but I can share, like, what my feelings are around it. It seems like I have to be really good at understanding whether I'm delivering value in that moment. And if I am delivering value, I can call it out to them. I can say, "Look, I like, what I'm about to tell you is actually worth a lot. It's taken years." Like, I can explain, like, the value of what it is I'm maybe willing to share. But I can also put a boundary up and say, "I actually know the answer to your question. I've dealt with it many times before. There's, like, this group, this group, this group. You can call any of them. They'll give you, like, a glowing review. I can help you with the exact same thing, but, like, in order for me to do that, we have to be in a working relationship, with one another. It's only fair." And it seems like once I started having more boundaries about that, I got a lot more mutual respect, and it seemed like the deals became higher value and more successful because I've done a better job of managing expectations as well.
you? Yeah. We teach people and our clients, mostly entrepreneurs, business owners, and sales teams, not to attempt to prove your value at all pre-sale. Value is delivered after they're a client, not before. Pre-sale, you should only be trust building. Trust building means doing a deep dive inside their world, called going down the iceberg with them. Because at the surface level, they'll tell you their problem. And like you said, you've ran long enough to size it up in a couple seconds, and your brain starts to solve it like a calculator. Inputs, outputs, right? You can't help it. It's called the expert syndrome. All the experts know their stuff so well. When they hear the problem they're used to, their system goes, I can fix that. and off they go to the races. What they haven't been able to do is, and what I would coach our clients on, is to stop processing the solution. It's too premature to the process until they trust you. Stay present, listen to their problem, and then summarize and crystallize it.
That's really good advice. How do you how do you move this along? So let's say you are in an actual sales role, and there you might even be a situation where it's like software sales or home services sales or things where you're, from a business side of the table, you're actually under pressure to close the deal quickly. How do you follow your advice but also still get the deal closed in a, relatively quick manner?
Perfect. We developed something called the one call sale, where you can make the sale in one meeting without pressure in the process. Okay, we've mastered the art of that. It's a system, it's a process, which I'm now patenting. And the process essentially requires one, shifting your persona from selling to more of a doctor patient construct, where you're the doctor and they're the patient. That's the first thing you have to do, is shift to that way of thinking, right? Doctors don't promote themselves, talk about who their patients are or where they went to school. They don't even dispense any medicine at all. The pharmacist does. Okay, so once you get that in your head, that whole thinking, then we have a process where you have two components. One is what I call going down the iceberg with someone, where they've got their problem, but then you have to unpack it, peel the onion back to a very, very deep emotional level, to the level what I call COI, cost of an action, where you're helping them understand the impact and cost of what it's costing them not to solve the problem. Then you come down and a couple steps and you ask them this question: is this a priority for you to resolve and address once and for all? So you can move on. So you're going to have them own the problem first before you onboard. That's kind of the first half. Does that make sense?
Of course it does, and especially as it relates to trust building, owning a problem is pretty close to being vulnerable. If you're on the phone with somebody and they can be vulnerable enough to own that they have a problem and admit it, you're probably being successful at building trust, or else they wouldn't be vulnerable with you.
You just articulated the crux of all of this. Trust is about allowing the other person to feel comfortable, allowing you inside their world, and their instinct, their gut says to them, wow, he's not trying to sell me anything. He cares about me. He wants to know about me. And most salespeople or experts can't do that because they're so wired to want to solve the problem to prove to the other person they can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And so, are there any other? So, like, you did share that one example prior in your sales career. Tell me how, where along the way you formulated some of this and how you've used it. Do you have any stories or examples of like where you got in the flow and started proving out some of these techniques?
Yeah, we have so many. Gosh, we have a whole book on just that alone, case studies with 20 years now. But I'll tell you kind of where this comes from. Okay. So I myself was tired of being stuck in this vicious cycle of chasing leads, of chasing anybody. I said to myself, I'm no longer going to chase anybody ever again the rest of my life. Now, to do that, I've got to figure out a way to compress a sales cycle from multiple steps down to one single meeting. Because I realized all we're looking for them is 4 words: I'm in. 5. Let's do this. That takes me a half a second to say those words. Why does it take us multiple meetings, lunches, proposals, and emails to get to that point? The reason is because of a lack of trust somewhere in the process. So I figured, if I remove all the friction from the process, I can stop selling. Then I can have a heart to heart conversation in this manner. And I started testing that towards. And all of a sudden people started saying, "I'd like to work with you. What's the next step? How do we move forward?" On their own. I was like, "What the heck? I'm not closing or pressuring or talking."
What were
And
you
that's when I started
selling? What were you selling in this case when this breakthrough happened?
consulting, consulting
Mm,
around business growth, sales growth, because they were shopping us, right? Well, how are you different than the other guy? What can you do for us?
yeah.
Like, the typical kind of like inbound. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I am being thrown bullets. And I finally said to them when they said to me, "What can you do for us?" I said, "Absolutely nothing." They go, "What?" "I have no idea what I can do for you until we first unpack your full situation so I can identify where the gaps are. Then I can let you know if I can help you or not." And he was like, they're like deer in the headlights, like, "Oh, okay." And then I turned the whole thing around, started going down the iceberg with these questions I talked about. And then all of a sudden they said to me, "Well, what's the next step?" And I showed them our next process, which is called a roadmap, the visual tool that you show them in the process in that first meeting on what your formula is for success, how you solve their problem, not your services, not your pricing, but your process to onboard them. And people just said, "Okay, let's get started." And I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." And I codified that. And now we have this is designed for low volume, high margin opportunities like financial advisors, consultants, entrepreneurs, agencies that have a long sales cycle who want a client for life. That's where I've been teaching this now.
Nice. And what does an engagement look like? So I'm gonna ask you. So like, what does an engagement look like if somebody were to hire you as a consultant or your firm? Like, what would they should expect to what is the transaction or what does the agreement look like?
Well, the funny thing is, people come in and expect a program. They say, "Well, how does your program work, Ari?" I say,
Yeah.
"We have no program." Go, "What?" This is an intervention, not a program. We have to change your thinking and transform how you think about your current process. And it's very quick. It's only 4 or 5 sessions, and we're finished. They're done. Off they go. They're successful. We don't need them long term. We're not trying to lock them into a contract. In fact, there's no agreements. There's no contracts. There's no follow up. There's no chasing.
That in itself builds trust because you're not trying to tie their hands. You're not trying to lock them up.
Now the irony of this, once they begin to like grow and get conversions higher, they go, "Oh my God, this is working so well. Can you help us here?" So we
Yeah.
allow the natural ebb and flow to occur. There's no lock in or forced program they have to join.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how marketing interplays with some of these sales things. So you talked about low volume, high
I
ticket
mark.
sales.
Yeah,
What is the best way? I mean, to what is the best way to attract some of these opportunities? Because it seems to me like that's a big part of it is having the people actually come to you versus chasing.
correct. Very good question. That's now taking this concept and pushing it forward to the lead gen side. We talked about up until now conversion. Once you get them to a meeting, what happens then? To get them there, they got to come to already having you pre-positioned as the doctor in advance.
Right.
So they're not shopping you. And the way you do that is if you're in that quadrant, low volume, high margin, you want to narrow down, zoom in, not zoom out, and find your lane, your niche, so to speak, of who your ideal client is. You want to figure out who's already spent the money to go to the wide ocean and collect them into a closed pond. Okay. Like, for instance, we have a multiple niches of people coming to us all the time. I've got a bunch of coaches and their account is being filled up as we speak right now. So, one of our lanes is wealth management, financial advisors is one of our niches. Okay. So we did a list of every single association in America and every publication that financial advisors subscribe to and are members of. That was a step one. Then we created a trust asset. A trust asset is a mini book that we create that's not a normal book. It's not for Amazon. It's not for sale. No one ever knows about it. It's only designed for your lane, your niche, your pond. That's the fishing pole to fish them out. Now, this book, Trust Assets, kind of like these here. This is an example of one, different concept. But the content of this is only problem centric, not solution centric. That's the big switch. The big idea here is your job is to market the problems that you solve, not your solution. That's a whole shift in itself because most marketers attempt to market your brand, your services, scream louder, more posts. We say no, stop doing that. That's where all the noise is. Instead, go into a space where no one else is. So we found these associations. We developed a trust asset, a little mini book that describes the problems they have, which is overeducating these advisors, doing free consulting and chasing people like we're talking about today. And then what we did was we approached them, these groups, and said, we built this book for your members. Can we pay you some money? Let them know about a free offer to offer the book for free to educate them. Now these are nonprofits mostly. They're like, sure. So we advertised our free book offer in those lanes where no one else was, and people started ordering our book. And where I innovated was I actually bolted on the consultation to the free book offer. See, most people have books or leads. They get leads first, then they chase them afterwards. Hi, did you get my book? We saw you filled in a form on our website. You're chasing again. So we have figured out a way to innovate on this where when you order our physical book, in the same click, you schedule a meeting at the same time. So you already know in advance it's a book and consultation, not just the
Yeah,
book.
I've got to get my homework done before the call. It's just a joke, but it does feel that way. Um, and it probably makes the call a lot more productive too, because if you've read the book, you're prepared for the call.
Here's the irony of this, Goats. They don't even have to read the book. They just have to receive the book and
Yeah,
hold it in their hand and scan and go, wow, he understands me. He's not pitching me. It's not a marketing brochure. It's a device that tells me he gets my problems. Most people show up and go, I got Ari's books. I haven't read them, but they look good. And we're like, well, don't worry about the books. What matters is you're here right now. So
yeah.
the whole goal is getting them to the calendar, not the book ordering.
That's a really interesting process. I really like it. I mean, there's a lot to be said for some traditional marketing methods like books, like billboards, even because it's a validator. When you put a book in someone's hand, it shows that you've earned enough experience and enough expertise to even write the book in the first place. So there's assumptions that people make about you. When you see a billboard, it must be a legit enough company to be able to afford the 3 to like $10,000, $12,000 a month it is to even pay for that. So there's a lot of associative credibility that comes along with different marketing vehicles. I like what you're doing with your question book and your problems. It seems very relatable.
Well, it's a trust building process. It's not marketing and selling my services. It's
Yeah.
marketing the problems into a niche where no one else is through a different way, whether I feel comfortable. 'Cause I'm being endorsed by the group I'm marketing into. So I call it making money in the dark, away from the general population.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about some of the nitty gritty. For example, how important? I mean, obviously, you have like a list of questions. You have some questions that you've outlined either in the book or through your programming. How important is it to listen? Obviously, I assume very important. But like, what techniques are you using? Are you using any of these AI tools to help you summarize the calls and things like that? Or like, tell us about your process of listening.
Well, funny thing is, the most frequent testimonials we get from people are this: I finally learned how to shut up. Something about the sales process triggers us to want to engage in a conversation. This is not a conversational, let's become friends, kumbaya, peer relationship process. That's selling, okay? Because you got to position yourself as a trusted authority. You're the doctor, they're the patient. Doctors don't have coffee with their patients very often. They don't say, hey, how's the weather outside? They're not looking for rapport building techniques to become your friend. The difference here is you have to not talk at all about yourself, which is the hardest thing for experts to not talk about themselves because they feel passionate about what they do. And the minute
Yeah.
they hear someone's problem, their instinct is, I can help you. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
Come over here. I'll give you a hug. You know?
Well, let's talk about the questions then, because it seems like
Sure.
you can project expertise in how well framed and formulated your questions are.
Definitely. So I'll give you an example. Let me walk you through the one call sale process. Some examples now. Okay. Let's say you're showing up on Zoom for the first time with somebody, a lead, say from LinkedIn or an opportunity, right? For lead gen. First consultation, first initial meeting. They show up on Zoom, right? Usually what happens is people say, "Oh, nice to meet you. What brought you in today? Where are you from? I love your shirt. Oh, what's on your mind?" They just kind of like look for things to sort of connect on. That's a mistake. Your job is not to build rapport with these people. Your job is build trust with them. They're whole two different planes altogether. So the first thing you say when they show up is, "Nice to meet you, coach. Nice to meet you as well." First thing you're gonna say is this: "It's okay with you if you wouldn't mind, take a step back for a moment. Walk me through your background, your situation, up to your current marketing concerns you have with your business right now, and we'll go from there. Would that be okay with you?" Take your fingers like this over your mouth and sit back in your chair like this.
Just shut up and stop. Like, physically
Like this.
stop yourself from talking.
Physically,
Yeah.
it's two things. One, it tells you to stop talking, and it shows them this is not about you today. You're the therapist, they're the patient. You're not going to say a word today about yourself. This starts to train you not to talk. It's really weird. At first, be like, "Oh, oh," and then they go, "Oh, yeah, yeah, it works so, yeah, you're right. I got to shut up." And then they start talking. As they describe their problem, your instinct will be to want to solve it, but don't do that. You got to stay calm and centered and present and simply say back to them, "So what I'm hearing from you is your core issue is XYZ. Is that right?" They go, "Yeah, exactly." That's the first checkpoint of them testing you on your process because they're hiring you now, not on your efficacy. They can't prove your value until after they're a client, not before. All they're judging you on is your approach. If your approach is not uniquely different, it's game over. You're going to chase them. They'll say to you, "I want to think about it."
That's really interesting. Well, let's talk about I'm scared to say the follow-up because I've been told not to say that anymore, but let's talk about the follow-up process. How do you what's the best way once you've had a great first call? What's the best way to keep in contact, maintain the connection, strengthen it, move towards a contract?
Schedule an next call. There is no follow up.
Just schedule
Follow
them.
up does not exist in our world. There's no drop off. There's no chasing. There's no autoresponder emails to warm them up. That they're gone. Once they're
Yeah,
off your calendar, it's over. Our whole thinking is you have to turn take your business and convert it into a by appointment only business model, like a doctor's office, where they schedule with you on your next step to move forward. They fall off your calendar into a black hole. It's over. You're chasing the numbers game, and they're going to ghost you.
that's good advice. I
It's the only advice. Yeah.
That is interesting. There's a one of the things I've done lately just for sport is to fill out some of these internet guru coaches type their data capture form just to watch their process, just to watch the process. A little bit of like what you talked to your story earlier, but it is interesting, seeing some of this stuff. And I can tell you one of them was over the top about staying on the calendar. I must have gotten 12 meeting reminders in 3 days. And I remember telling them, I was like, if I get one more reminder, I'm not coming to the meeting. Like, I've already accepted it. Leave me alone.
Yeah, that's a bit overkill. Not
Yeah.
necessary.
But it is interesting though. I like your tactic of, hey, there's a schedule. Let's keep them on this train of like, we're having the next meeting. Like, let's go ahead and schedule the next meeting now. I've got deliverables, you've got deliverables, whatever. Let's go ahead and get that done now because there is no follow up, there's no chasing. It's literally like, we're going to have this next meeting. And then everybody assumes that we're moving it forward.
Well, the key with this is the languaging. on how you say it.
Yeah.
They don't feel like you're pressuring them, and they can still trust you. And here's how you do it. At the end of the meeting, you say, it might make sense if you'd be open to it. Why don't we schedule a time now to catch up again next couple of weeks? We can brainstorm together some ideas. You may have questions for me. I may have more questions for you. And it'd be easier to stay on the calendar versus us chasing you afterwards. Would you be open to that?
That's really good advice. I like that. And you're using that opening word again. And
Yep.
if you know what you're doing, I mean, you're inviting them back into another moment where you can even build more trust, which
If they don't agree to schedule with you, guess what went wrong?
it's over.
You didn't build trust with them.
Yeah,
Your fault, not theirs.
that's a good point. That's a really good point. Well, this has been very educational, Ari. Like, I really appreciate hearing some of these techniques and tactics from you. I really, really believe in building trust, and I'm definitely made a ton of mistakes in my career with oversharing and trying to solve problems and things like that. And I'm always working on myself, trying to get better at it. We're definitely going to check out some of your books. Where can we follow you? Where can we keep up with what you're up to?
Well, I think the best thing is if people listening now and go, this is interesting. Go through our process yourself. Order my book. Just go to thetrustbook.com. It's my newest book called Trust in a Split Second. Just came out. You can get a free copy there. We'll pay for postage. It goes in the mail. And then on your way out, schedule a time to chat with us and have a chat about your situation and test the waters. Watch live what it's like to be in a process where you're trust building, not selling. So I would encourage anybody who's skeptical here to go to thetrustbook.com, order the book, schedule a time, and watch what happens live and learn from it.
That sounds great, Ari. We're definitely going to do that ourselves. And so I'm sure I'll be talking to you. Try to get on your calendar so we can move the process forward. But anyhow, thanks again for joining us. It's been very educational. I'm sure it's everyone who's listened to this appreciates your time and your advice. And we're definitely going to use it in the future. And we'll follow you at thetrustbook.com. You can follow us anywhere where podcasts are found across the Bake More Pies and Law of Relevancy social media. All right, thanks again for joining us. We'll see
Thank you so
everybody
much.
next time.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.